And then what? And then that guy. And then her. Hello. I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm not feeling very well, and the camera's not working terribly well either. Sean Lennon is. It's unfortunate. He's going to outlive me by 50 years. He's been reading my posts. So, for example, when I posted about "I wish you were my younger brother," he then had pictures of him and his stepbrother. You know, I'm not really interested in anything much. Yeah. I can only start with Garth Bowen, who was doing a PhD into some chemical reactions. His father was a legitimate, non-corrupt local solicitor. Didn't belong to any of these, law firms or anything like that. I don't know whether he did any criminal law. I don't think so. He was married all his life, and he and his wife continued on afterwards. So when I met Garth, they know all this. There's this gang from, I don't know who they are or why they're doing it, but they don't believe in a personal history. The only personal history they believe is what the state says you are. So with me, I came third in the state in the final chemistry exam for matriculation. I would go over to Garth's place on Sydenham Road, just down there, next to, what's it called, Free Street. Where somebody had placed a plaque in the name of Hutchins for November 22. And so some years later, Michael Hutchins of that band In Excess was found dead on November 22. But the date in Free Street in the small park wasn't the date, the year that Hutchins died. What it was about, for me anyway, was people involved in show business, in particular rock and roll, pop music, trying to, seduce you into being involved with their worldwide scene. In particular, a guy named L. Ron Hubbard, who, well, I won't say. So what Garth would do is Rosemary, the wife, would keep in the kitchen or in the kids' bedroom while we had what is called a coaching session. And Garth would explain the basis of chemistry in terms of, I can't even remember it now, but in terms of electrons, protons, different valences, and that sort of thing. And so after 2 months of that, I came third in the state. He was able to go to the matriculation results computer place, wherever it was, and find out what were my, they don't tell you this, you see, at high school, At university, they'll tell you what each course you did, what each level you got, but at high school they just don't bother. So he looked it up and he said, "Oh yeah, you came third in the state for chemistry. You did this in physics. You did that in what was it? Some other course and some other course." He said, "Oh, well, they'll give you an offer for Adelaide University. You won't have to go to Flinders because Flinders had a not as good a reputation so far as Garth and chemistry went, science went, as Flinders. Flinders was attached to some hospital that had been newly built, and I think they even had a media department, that sort of thing. Yeah, and so what I do, which is what Yoko Ono, or seemingly what Yoko Ono talks about in a lot of her pop music, is we'd go to the pie cart in town and get some green pea soup and take it home and take it back to Sydenham Road and eat the pea soup without a pie. And I forget how much it costs or whatever, but let's see, what was Garth? Garth's laboratory was in, I forget what the name of the kids too. Of course, Boehm is a German name, and so the Nazi Party, liked him because he was a German name. Get the picture? But Garth was not a Nazi. He didn't believe in socialism or the Labour Party, or for that matter, the Liberal Party, and so. Just by coincidence, the next year, after I started at Adelaide Uni, a Democrats Party came into existence, and nobody knew what to make of it because it had a total different ideology. Even, for example, my professor, say Jack Barbalet, his surname is Spanish derivative. And he's a socialist. He's been to China, taught in Hong Kong, China, after reunification. He's taught in America too, but he's never taught in Europe or UK. But in China, and he's got quite good, credentials, and has been a professor in three different, what's it called? Three different institutions, let's say, or departments. I sent, he's a funny guy, well clean, but the problem he had is that me and Rosie Page and two other characters got together, and I recorded an essay I'd written onto tape cassette. And they listened, and at the end of the live recording, they had to say pole theory is nothing, is meaningless. It's just a bunch of words. To us it was, but not to Jack, not to people who supported China unifications and all that sort of stuff, or the IRA. or radical revolutionary heroin dealing for that matter. So I'd often, well, I was just saying, when I was on the campus, I'd often go to his laboratory. The CBS TV people were spying on us. If you want to look at it in any way, if you weren't a communist or had a famous communist name like Engels, or weren't German, they would attack you and spy on you. Here in South Australia, for example, there's a uranium mine. They named it after a kid on Opie Street named, what's his name? Now I can't even remember his name. Ian Roxby, who didn't, I think maybe finished high school on Opie Avenue. So they got a US, I think it was CBS, to do a show shown locally. Where the aunt in the story was named Opie. They were right into using the media to limit people's intelligence, or as George Harrison describes it, to brainwash people to limit their capacities and their intelligence. Oh, there's the anonymous phone call. I'll ring him up. I'll answer the phone. I usually have to hold on. Let me see who this is. Fourth. Yes, number 47 here. Yes, number 47 here. Sorry, I can't hear. I can't hear. Okay, I'll go right outside. Thank you. Okay, I'll be there. Okay. Sorry. Well, I should. Oh, well. Ooh, well. Well, it was a delivery man from Amazon Australia Books. Earlier in the day, there were some clouds, but it went sunny afterwards. This is, it weighed 1 kilogram. It's cycle number 1. Whoops, what was that? The computer just made a noise as if something had been connected or disconnected. Here's the parcel. The code is 10.3C 577, and this morning it was about 10 degrees C, I must say. It was quite chilly. All right, so I'll go get some scissors and open the parcel. Whoops. I'll have to, it's labelled FM8 JM8. Oh, wow, what's this? Hang on. I didn't. They've made a mistake. They have made a mistake. I only ordered 2 copies. They've sent 3 copies. I hope I've got enough money in the account to pay for it. They've made a mistake. I only ordered 2 copies. It's freezing cold. Okay. And plus the cover is bent. They bent that cover, the front cover. It says Exploring Cult, a personal account on crime and politics. The back cover says the author was born early on a Wednesday morning, a day or 2 before a minor earthquake rumbled across the Adelaide Plain. After 15 years education, he visited Northern Hemisphere where he met 2 persons who would now they've made one drive his life to the end, but they've made the letter R in the word drive bold for some reason. And I didn't order 3, I ordered 2. By the age of 3 and 4, author experiences mystical realizations regarding his future lifespan experiences along with how the world was going to function for the next 10,000 or more years, daunting to say the least. And so I'll open it. And where is that's gone. Oh. Uh-huh. Exploring Cults, a personal account on crime and politics. In brackets, mafia, communist parties already found me. It's copyright overall 2025, South Australia. It has an introduction saying, this collection comprises essays and chapters taken from published books 1982, 93, 2023. When they were written, I mostly had no means of publishing any of it, but had saved them nonetheless as computer files and documents. A few got photocopied and stapled. One of those things, we did a poetry magazine called Dark Areas, seemingly or supposedly about, like when you at night time, there are street lights, but they're not so strong that the streets are as bright as day. And what usually happens is that in the dark areas, crime takes place. There are other meanings to it, but And so what I was saying is that we recorded that the first year tape cassette talk about what I'd written. And UK show business people did a song about the girl who, in the first year girl, who was included, and her name was Rosie Page. You know, like Page, Rosie Page. And it's funny, she went to a high school, state high school called Marion, other side of town, where they had the only computer, as far as we knew, in a high school. But the computer was as big as this entire room, ran off cards rather than what are they called? Rather than typing or a computer program. And the cards would be read by this thing and would come out as zeros and ones. And a zero meant something like off, and a one meant something like on. Well, anyway, Rosie Page, and so that the UK band Fairport Convention then did their song, Come On Rosie, rosin up the bow, because they're thinking like baseballers, and baseballers use something called rosin on their hands to make the ball stick better to their hands. And it wasn't a very big hit song, and I don't know what happened to Rosie Page. Maybe she completed 3 years, maybe she dropped out, maybe she met someone and fell in love. Who knows? Let's see. They may be of interest to a reader, specifically in terms of what the subjects were involved, the idea of cults of various forms and types, ranging from drug dealers and local organised crime groups to a wider take, including certain politicians and members of their particular party, which also covered state government departments and employees. The university was owned by the government, the federal government, the Commonwealth government, not the state government. And the idea for the title, Exploring Cults, that was Professor Tim Mears, who lived up in the hills. He had 3 or 4 kids off Grasby Road. And what they did is they made Al Grasby from Queensland the Labor Party Minister of Ethnic Affairs. Now, that in itself is a racist thing to do, a sort of like divide and conquer, you know, which is how the British Empire became the British Empire, by dividing and conquering. And the Minister of Ethnic Affairs dealt with all quote unquote ethnics apart from the British. So Tim had already said, had already given a special lecture sort of about cults, and he was a learned man. He, I think, was born in a place called England, UK, and came out here either before or after he had children, and lived where he lived his entire life. and he died, I think, in 2001 or 2002 or something, with his wife in a car smash in Western Australia near a place called Two Rocks. And the thing about him was that he was sort of pleased that Helen, followed his example. After meeting me, she found some young guy started dating her, and within a month they were married, and within 2 months she was pregnant with a child. And Tim was sort of like, as far as I can recall, relieved that that's what she was doing, and that she was living, a normal type life in Australia with an Australian boy. But the other daughter, Sarah, was the unfortunate victim of a cult. And he went into that cult, and he went into various other cults, and the majority of them were sort of like Indian cults, quasi-religious cults. There was also some stuff about so-called Christian cults, Catholic cults too, various other things, and I just thought, man, this is really going to be a hard course to do. But what happened was, in second year, at least 70% of the people who attended his lecture had dropped out. And by third year, that 30%, at least 25% had dropped out. And yeah. So the Labor Party arranged to make Grasby Road, the racist Department Ethnic Affairs. The so-called ethnics had already arranged their lives. They were all living good social experiences. They all had sort of like clubs or doms or buildings, or the more the more progressive had, or the more affluent had. But after Grasby came, that sort of was slowly closed down. So that these days there are no there isn't a Polish club anymore. There isn't a German club anymore. The Hungarian club doesn't exist anymore. They're all just now, they call it interracial society, mixed society, hodgepodge of what he described as a sort of like a communist socialist Labor Party scheme. Some people thought that was good, some people didn't. Okay, so he did mention organised crime, but what he said was not much detail about it or anything to take, including, some of those cults employed murder to further their causes and ends, but pretended to be covered by state-type laws that were unquestionable. Unquestionable. As a matter of fact, the entire state from its creation had been established as a cult. It was no mere coincidence that a man named Light had founded the settlement. He came here by boat. These were well, anyway, I won't read that too much, but back in those days, they were using sailing ships with a mast or three masts and sails, and they'd unroll the sails, and the sails would catch the wind, and that's how they got around. So they had to know where the wind blew, how it blew. There was no like the Panama Canal didn't exist. That canal in Egypt or whatever it is, that didn't exist. They'd go around Africa, Gibraltar, and then Africa down to South Africa, and from there to Australia. So it really was tedious. It took a long time to do, and all the rest of it. I'll give this copy away because the cover is damaged. All right, but masts, and so they did have that the one that Bob Dylan sang about, Meher Baba, whose Persian was able to supposedly treat people who had a condition caused by what he described as God. And the Vatican also did the same sort of thing. They followed his example, or at least John Paul II did, where it was he would wash the feet of the what he called masts, and so John Paul II followed the example and washed the feet of the certain people, the poor. But the present German Pope, he only washed the feet of high up cardinals and people of that ilk, and not the feet of the poor. Anyway, before this arrived, anyway, I won't say there's a pattern, but there is a pattern, and unfortunately, it does involve Germans, and what they've done is repeat themselves in certain houses I visited or knew people who lived there. And while that was being done, Chinese food restaurants were open, and a big new Woolworths department store was opened and all that. But the person I have in mind, next street down from where his adopted parents lived, was Leader Street. So in the UK, a publishing company called, it was a Melrose or someone. Melrose Street, by the way, was off Warren Road, when Warren was the US Republican second in command to whoever was the president in the 50s. But there was, Melrose Press, I think it was, did something called International Leaders, because Leader Street was the next street down. USA, they found some guys named Bruce, Bruce Springsteen, for example, because Bruce, the local one, was named Bruce, and he was going for a doctorate degree in a very obscure sort of area or field. But they got to him, is what I'll say. They got to him. Who got to him? Well, total strangers, people, no idea who they are, would simply locate me and say, "Can you give us a lift down to the rock festival at Meadows?" And Bruce replied, "Oh, okay, all right, if you want, we can do that." It was afternoon drive. And so we gave them a lift to a place called Meadows. But I already thought it's got something to do with where a girl lived named Eglinton on Meadowbank Rise. She had a friend named Eleanor and Rowena on another street, one up, whose mother was a medical doctor, whose father was in USA, California, doing LSD research. And while he was away, she was seduced. She took on a younger lover. And so when the father arrived home, let's just say he died at the base of a cliff. Whether it was murder or not murder, it's neither here nor there, because the way these characters work is they continue on with what they're doing, their agenda, their ideology, and they repeat what they do. Let's just say because they're not very well educated academically, they repeat what they do almost exactly to 2 or 3 or 4 different people. And they kind of work with real estate developers and those kind of people. Now, Bruce Springsteen, for example, they got that from Bruce. The Melrose Press also did, who's who in poetry and who's who in this, and leaders in this and this and this. It was just sort of like books of biographies, and the wrong people found out about these people and assassinated some of them. The books were used as hit lists. Prior to that becoming obvious, they employed the place next door to me at number 2 for some characters employed by someone who gave them a list of 10 names, all colored people, who they would get people in California and other places in America to turn those people into TV news stories, and we'll say O.J. Simpson with his wife Nicole being murdered. And so to prove their point, they had this TV actress, Nicole, from Channel 9, sort of do this scam at a local bottle shop at Norwood, where she was outside with, I think, 2 other girls. And then the next night they had a stunt man roll his stunt car onto its roof outside my place at 11 o'clock. So O.J. Simpson's wife, Nicole, she got killed, and the young actress, Nicole, was then, able to take over US movies as a Scientologist and just do just a lot of, well, what I'd call garbage. But then what else are movies? That's what movies are. They're just sort of garbage. Even the Self-Realization Fellowship, it says, oh, they're now being shown on TV. Back in the old days, people used to go somewhere to watch a big screen, and they'd turn the lights down, and the sound would be, really good, and so on. So there's your O.J. Simpson. But no, I'd say the Republicans started. There's no point in saying exactly who was assassinated from at least one of those books, who was assassinated from it. You know what I mean? Like straight, outright assassination. Uh-huh. And some of the assassins moved in next door here. And number four, now there's a character I met who has a wife or girlfriend named Beverly, or that's what her name was then, who worked for the state government. And so the state government helped him become a slum landlord, where they helped him purchase or, put down payments on various almost derelict places in this area. They also used his name or his street address as a police commissioner, and that's really pathetic. And one of the slum landlord owns the place directly opposite number four, which originally, when he took it over back then, had some assassins move in. You know what I'm saying? Assassins move in, use the place for overseas assassinations. What else can you do? What else can they do? Anything else? Okay. Maybe I could read some of this. So I'll give this copy away because they bent the cover over. They bent the cover over. Dear, let me think. Oh, there was an assassination that was done sort of recently by some Japanese in Japan who had their the scout, the producer of the murder conspiracy to kill their prime minister, had her visit here. And she was coming to talk to somebody here. She had a contact here. But unfortunately for her, I saw what she was doing. I happened to be looking at the place directly opposite, which was called Elsie's Elderly Care, run by Lutherans. And with the Lutherans, they stalked me, followed me to two addresses, and the cars they used to stalk me and follow me are the cars they use and are parked outside all night with their logo lit, or it used to be all night, but now they turn it off at 4:00, say, when a media show from New York comes. But that media show is no longer of any use or goodness or anything, simply a propaganda thing for, I don't know, for for someone, and it's terrible. It's just really terrible because TV is a very, very cutthroat, a very, very cutthroat business. Before this arrived, I was thinking about being a kid. Forgot about my neighbours, Elizabeth Lowe and Elizabeth North. The North Pole star there's an illusion that can be gained through using cameras and recording devices, which makes it look like all the planets, all the stars, everything in the heavens revolves around what they name the North Pole star. But in the southern hemisphere, that doesn't happen, you see. And so, although it can still be made to look like everything's revolving around, I don't know, the southern pole, the southern pole, where there should be a star or something, is empty. And so I guess that's why they use the idea for the Southern Cross rather than the South Pole. What was that all about? Oh, I can't remember what I was thinking, but oh God, oh yeah, sparrows. A couple of years ago, the Rolling Stones came up with a lyric, something about just sparrows. And I was forced to recall a school experience where a school teacher gave me, I don't know, 20 sparrows, 10 or 20 sparrows, and told me to put them in something, a cage or a box or something. And unfortunately, the sparrows wanted to be free, and they were willing to die to be free. And so there was a nail, you see, on the box that I had put them in, and each of the sparrows went through the opening in the box, cut their throats, landed outside free but dead with a cut throat. So I told the teacher, oh, they all died. And then we had the problem with the Sunday school teachers, you know, people who think that religion is nothing more than publishing. If you publish something, you know, your cult will succeed or whatever it is. And so they use one character who did homing pigeons named Seagull for a book that they waited until first year university, 1972, when US campuses were being attacked left, right, and center by just the most violent type of people, particularly at a place called Kent State, because there was this Italian character who was a professor of psychiatry who lived at Kent Street, Hawthorne, near where 5 high schools were, and where there was a girls' school. And the girls' school in those days taught the girls, there was one class, taught them how to cook food. That's not taught in any other school. But that's why it happened exclusively at Kent State, because the young man who was to become the professor, the Italian man, had Anglicanized his name. The Italian name is spelled Carlucci. He Anglicanized it, so it was Carlucy, Lucy. And so, they got Lucy, they got all these songs about Lucy, or the Rolling Stones about Lucifer, and cults came, like cults, big time cults, Theosophical Society, for example. Back then, it wasn't even a room. The woman who had a son who was into it opened a small bookstore. It's now 3 stories tall, 50 rooms at least, and they no longer sell books of any value, just the stuff that they believe in that was written by their founder. And their founder is a strange woman who married someone but refused to consummate the marriage. So she remained a virgin bride throughout her life. And her husband, who was a military officer, had to, live with that knowledge and realization. But what was I on about? What was I on about? The occult. I suppose I could mention that because there's something in California called self-realization fellowship, started by a yogi named Yogananda, who was introduced to President of the United States. And after meeting the President of the United States, lived in a 2-room place, I think in Boston. But what was I thinking? Anyway, a spirit that's they mentioned this in a recent talk given in California about spiritism, as this town in the early 1920s was connected to other countries, other towns throughout the world who believed in spiritism, and in terms of weird stuff, such as you can harvest spirits, you can attach a spirit to someone, you can take someone's living spirit from them while they're alive, and various other weird kind of ideas. And that was part of a worldwide network, and it's still there. But these days, so I'm supposed to maybe talk about one of the neighbors who was not Elizabeth North or Elizabeth Pole. Oh, now I can't even remember the name anymore. It's funny, you get confused. They got the name for the South African Krugerrand from some Germans who were neighbors, or they weren't actually neighbors. They lived sort of around the corner, named Kruger, German. They had a daughter who was named Kruger. Not a very pleasant person, very aggressive, and so they either already had the Krugerrands or developed the idea of Krugerrands because of her. Here in Australia, where Elizabeth North and Elizabeth Lone are just sort of, let's just say, magical characters whose beginning and end will never arise. They'll always be part of, well, let's just say the mystical universe, or as the SRF teacher says, no, he doesn't. But he talks about Britain, the UK, specifically now that it no longer owns India, as the astral realm. The astral realm, and if you're at all interested, you can listen to 2 hour, 3 hour talks, lectures about what the astral world is. And in UK, one of their most popular bands was Hawkwind, because Bob Hawke from down the southeast was doing his, I think, PhD in Britain at one of their very prominent universities. And he won a prize as the fastest beer drinker in the world by sculling what they call a schooner. And a schooner was a ship with sails and a mast that caught the wind. He became the world's fastest beer drinker and was quite content to do little more than be the union movement, international union movement, the international president of the union movement, presumably, which was wishing for peace and harmony and goodwill to all men and women, and of course they didn't like it. Many didn't like it, and so when he became the Prime Minister of Australia, the Chinese did some just extremely violent things, such as running over people with tanks in the so-called Forbidden City of Peking, the Square of Heavenly Peace, running over people with tanks, killing them. And then when he was no longer the Prime Minister, they didn't oppose him and they didn't go crazy. Because there are some forms of ideologies where social relations and interactions are considered to be important beyond just, how to exchange money or credit or debit or pieces of paper and contracts. And so what happened with that idea, going back to the 70s, is in America a new cult started called TA, transactional analysis, where the object is like meditation, but being aware of what takes place with every transaction of every kind, like when you speak to somebody, when you don't speak to them, when you're rude to them, when you try to kill them, when you don't try to kill them. When you invite the Chinese Communist Party to walk down the outside 4 feet away, or have the Italian mafia don woman walk outside, that sort of thing. I mean, I found out how stupid, not stupid, but stupid. I found out how stupid they are. With the Italian woman, for example, the don, what she was doing and promoting was going to be on TV screen as part of a movie the next evening. They got the idea from something I wrote, which said, "I'm doing what's on the screen." They took it literally as the TV screen or the movie screen. She was outside, did some stuff. Next evening, what she did was taken a small piece out of the movie that I think it was Channel 9 showed. And the thing about the TV stations here is that, well, 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 I won't say, but it's just a shame that there's nothing really to watch on TV. Most of the things you have been shown 20, 30, 40, 50 times already. Many of the films and movies are done like old TV shows from America, such as Zorro. And Zoroastria was a sort of like a cult, which someone quite well known started in USA, Zoroastrian or something. But because it's an American thing, it's all about just shootouts, which they're trying to explain in terms of before USA had a constitution and was bound together as a nation. For 200 years, it was just a lawless place that was ruled through guns. You could, anyway, and that's no roads anywhere and no dams, and they had lots of rivers, and men chewed tobacco as a pastime. And that's goodbye. I am told that in the 1905 to 1915 period, many millions and millions and millions of communists or communist supporters from Europe and other places moved to America, and they built the city of New York. And New York had 5 daily communist newspapers. Unbelievable. Oh, well. So I think I'll turn this off and finish what I've... have another cigarette when I've turned it off. I suppose the final thing to say is if you're at all interested, which I'm not, but since Donald Trump became president the second time, and his campaign manager, the man who promoted him seemingly to the status, was a local media guy, newspaper publisher, who left town and promoted Donald Trump. I just forgot what I was thinking or saying. Oh, they have a former, this has been talked about for 40, 50, 60 years. They talked about it in the 60s too. They knew what had happened, but they didn't know who ordered it. They had a CIA agent who'd go to various places that the US had taken over and, do assassinations and murder campaigns. But he said he wasn't getting paid enough, so he joined the mafia and would do a job every day, sometimes 3 jobs a day. A job was to kill someone. He says he did the John Kennedy job. Got paid $30,000, but then he got sent to prison somehow, and they let him out eventually as he was a married man, and his confession can be seen on TV, and I think he got maybe 1 million viewers, but who's interested in that? They already knew that much back in '63. They already knew that somebody was working with the CIA. But he was saying, Mr. Mafia, 30,000 for killing that president, that he doesn't know who ordered him to do it. All he knew was that after leaving the CIA, a mafia, Italian mafia, came and said, "You want to work for us? We'll pay you more." And that's what they did. And Kennedy was just another job. But who told them to do it? Who ordered them to do it is the question. You might say it was just some Italians who did it. But what were their names? Where did they live? I had a similar experience here when somebody just was walking past or just sort of bumped into me and suddenly was talking about that book, Mario Puzo's book, They're a Weird Mob, written about the mafia in Queensland, where they're strange sort of, they're a weird mob, and he was saying that's to do with that neighbour you had back then, the guy who worked in Queensland. But he doesn't know Elizabeth Lone or Elizabeth North or even Seagull, so that's a problem. So if I won't say anything to Sean, but Yoko says she smashed a phone booth after that phone call arrives. And I wouldn't want to say anything. They did take, I won't say anything else, but man, these guys are real organized. The last thing they want is love. The last thing they want is love. As well as we were told, they're motivated, by sadism, the idea of being sadistic. Prove your manhood by being sadistic. Okay, well, bye bye, Jay Gurdev.